I'll never wire anything as complex as this again. See, if I was interviewing someone and they solder like that, I would be like, take the train. You know, I'd say things from Roadhouse. I mean, I guess I say things from Roadhouse anyway. One question I get asked a lot is, do you sell the things that you build? And the answer to that is yes. In fact, this is one of the very few portables I ever built and didn't sell. This also illustrates why electric tape is not a very good long-term solution. It kind of dries out and... Okay, I think I have it loose. And there's definitely enough hot glue there that there wasn't any danger of it coming loose on its own. What all is hooked up to this? I unplugged the audio video coming from the Atari, so it probably just leaves power. Oh yeah, oh, there it is. There's a screen from the original portable. This was a Casio pocket television, and yes, I did indeed glue those dials in place. So the Casio pocket television, I think it was like $170 in the year 2000. A CFL, a compact fluorescent lamp. So there's actually an inverter. I think the batteries sat here in the original unit. There's like 1, 2, 3, right? So that's why there were terminals here and here. Oh, hey, check this out. If I turn on the TV, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a red line going across the screen. That was the tuner. So in the plastic molding above the screen, they would have the stations, and then the line would move right below the number, and that's how you knew what channel you were on. So this thing couldn't even generate text on screen. It just used this line as like a channel pointer, kind of like an old car radio. There the backlight's working. I probably need to check over things. This was for the speaker. See how there's a little headphone jack there? So I've got the other one going to this potentiometer, and the other side of that is going to the speaker, which... Oh, you know why I did that? Oh gosh, yes. Because this... Oh, that's awful. Because this is the brightness and the volume control, right? But I guess I was not comfortable desoldering those things back then. So I was just using the external headphone jack, probably with the volume all the way up. And then this potentiometer would attenuate it to make it less volume. See, the TV would have used something very much like this for an external composite video input. And now I realize why I had the plug in place is because I was too stupid to realize there was a switch in there detecting if the plug was present. So there are the 4 pins. So basically it's either one or the other disconnected. But then these 3 pins, I'm guessing, are a switch. Gee, if only I knew that when I was young and stupid. Now I'm just stupid. Okay, so the outer pins are the ones that are active when the plug is in place. So what it's probably doing is interrupting a pass-through. Let's see about taking apart this screen. I know you've been in there for many years. You know, I probably didn't even take apart this section of the screen back in the day. I know on later portable builds I did. And there's not much to it. Basically, you got power going to the inverter right here. Then you've got probably, oh, that's for the buttons, which we don't actually need. And then the data going to the screen. This one still has the tuner installed. I could probably actually remove that and save some power. Oh, it looks like it had an external antenna port too. I'm just gonna go in and reflow these connections. Everything inside this unit is so shiny. There we go. I think I will bench test this. Not bench press, bench test. So I'm gonna get my power supply. What would that be? 4.5 volts? Okay. Don't explode. Oh, look at that. It tuned into a non-existent TV station that no longer exists. Looks like the back light is working. Why aren't we seeing the tuning line? Let's try that again. Did I solder blob it the wrong way? I'm going to look down for channels. Now I'm going to look up for channels. Yeah, kids, this is what we had to deal with in the year 2000. Also, we had to walk to school barefoot and fight dinosaurs. And Fortnite wasn't even a thing. But the Unreal Engine was. Oh, I seem to recall if you go into UHF, the line turns green. How do I remember these things? See, I have some memory left. You know, I bet what it is? It's always rendering a channel, but this probably physically disconnects. So the solution would be to remove the jack entirely. Yeah, so technically the two inner pins are from the tuner, and the two outer pins are what's actually going to the LCD circuitry. Now that I know the tuner is always running, I'm definitely going to remove it. Oh my gosh, there it is on eBay! Casio EV550. Only $15? The reason I want to look at photos of it online is so I can figure out which knob is the volume. Whoa! My updates have turned it into a Sega Genesis! Oh, is this actually the volume control, not the brightness control? Why would that be? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you put the brightness control further away from the screen? Oh, FFS. They did put the brightness control at the bottom. Why? So let's put the brightness control further from the screen and the volume control further from the speaker and the headphone jack, because that makes sense. Back to this mess. Still trying to think of what to do. I mean, some of the stuff is just inappropriate, like these thin power wires that have been linked twice for some reason. But I still, you know, I don't want to try to erase the past, but I also want the past to work. So I think what I'll do is I'll just rewire enough of it to make it work. I mean, I'm going to redo the potentiometer. The potentiometer from the TV is 10K ohm, as is this one, so that's an easy replacement. But like this really crappy stuff, like this is like a joystick cable. I'm like, oh, how do I hook up the joystick? I know, I'll cut up a joystick cable and use that to connect up, down, left, right, because duh. But this is really awful, but I think I might just leave it. I mean, the system is so slow, this doesn't really matter. Because I don't know, I would have a hard time cutting this ribbon cable out and then throwing it away. I would also have a hard time keeping it for no reason. So if it's inside of this unit, then it's okay. Yeah, so like one thing I could do is replace these speaker wires just so they're the proper length. Oh my god, what the heck was I doing? Look, that's tied to the potentiometer lug. Ben. If only there was a Gordon Ramsay in my life back then that could have told me how wrong I was. This console is raw! Well, it just has to be done. Cut the green wire. So, if I'm thinking about wire management, I'm going to take the power wire down, come over here to the auxiliary input jack, right there, and then I'll go up to the power switch, so I'll make a nice U shape. I'm guessing back in the day, I didn't solder a lot of this stuff in place. I would attach the wires to things and then put them in the case, which is why everything is so overly long. That said, I'm still not cured of my hot glue addiction. And I'm going to glue this in a way that'll make it even more difficult to remove next time. You're welcome. You know, it's kind of coincidental, not ironic, coincidental, is that I seem to have misplaced my smaller heat shrink tubing kit, probably when I moved. So I may actually have to use electric tape once again on this. So I'm going to use black for ground, obviously. And then I'm going to use yellow. Yellow is the 12 volt DC color. I'm going to use it here. It's because, you know, 9 is closer to 12 than it is to 5. So yeah, I'm just going to come down here, make a right turn, then come up here to our jack. See, ground is nearest the plug. So I won't even disconnect the ground line. I'm just going to strip it back a little bit, if I can do it. There we go. And we'll put some solder on this wire, like so. Come on. Oh, it's not copper wire. There we go. Now, we'll attach it right to the plug. There we go. And then it will go right to the Atari, or wherever it needs to go. Some more advice for my younger self. If you solder things properly, you don't need to cover everything with 10 miles of electric tape. So in there, out there, and then up to the power switch. Oh, I can't throw everything away. Maybe I'll use some of these leftover garbage wires to attach the speaker. Sure. Look, it's blue and orange, the Element 14 colors. Element 14 is an electronics design community designed for the hobbyist to professional. Visit element14.com/TBHS. See, I still remember all the lines. All right, those should be long enough to reach the connection point, so I wanted to do that before I did this. Okay, the power up here. And again, I want the wire to be any longer than it needs to be. So we're gonna in there, out there, so when the switch is pushed up, it activates. And then the output of this will go to the regulator on the Atari. I don't know why I'm trying to make this so compact. This thing has tons of room inside of it. It's like an old station wagon. I really don't need to be that concerned with space. So stop trying to make everything so low profile, Ben. I'm sorry. There we go. So that will go to the Atari side. Oh yeah, kind of like the pin side. Cool, I think we're almost to the point where we can reinstall the TV. Actually, I think we are. I'm gonna go ahead and get the potentiometer wired up while there's still, you know, adequate space before I put the TV back in. Not the LCD screen, the TV. It's actually a TV. You know, there's actually some history way before this with me and portable video game consoles. When I was, it was in high school, and of course I was like a dork. I was like in band and choir, because I actually have a pretty good singing voice, fun fact. But one of the trips, I don't know which one it was, but we were taking a long bus trip someplace for one of those classes, and I brought along a pocket TV and a Sega Genesis, and we ran enough batteries, and we played it on the bus. So we were playing like Streets of Rage and stuff like that. Yeah, so I was fiddling around with this stuff, you know, many years before I actually ever built this thing. So it was always kind of in my blood. And much like this, Sega Genesis only runs about 45 minutes off of a 9-volt, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand current or any of that stuff back then. Okay, let's put the TV back in. Can't remember if there's actually anything that actually tells it where to go besides this one little screw. Well, speaking of battery life, like, yeah, this thing, the TV will go for like 2 or 3 hours on the batteries, but the Atari dies after about an hour, I think. So one of the reasons I like to be so self-deprecating about this sort of thing, it's not just because of insecurity. It's because, you know, I like people to realize and think, hey, You know, Ben was really terrible at this stuff once, and then he got somewhat better. I could do better. You know, it's about inspiring people to not think that it's magic and to give things a shot. All right, so I'm going to hook up the potentiometer to where it used to be. There are 4 holes for it versus 3 here, but I think one of them is just an extra ground, so I'm just going to hook up the tap and the 2 sides, and it should work just as the original one did because they're both 10K ohm. Yeah, so this one's an extra ground. So what it's probably doing is probably coming in here, going out there, and then ground is there. So we think about our plug. So if we turn it all the way to the left, that should be the ground. So we're gonna attach the counterclockwise direction of our potentiometer to ground and then hook the other ones up just like that. I think doing this potentiometer the right way is actually going to improve the audio of the system quite a bit. Back in the early days of me like selling these things, like 2001, that era, because I actually built and sold a lot of, well, not this model, but the subsequent models. Anyway, a big issue was not really removing the volume controls, but putting them someplace else and then wiring them up. And I always wished there, you know, I was waiting for like laser cutters to be a thing, because my idea was like put a gear between the edge of the case and the thumb wheel, so you could turn it that way, or you know, you could just have a sub PCB. Apparently I have fixed these AA battery tabs in place just by dumping copious amounts of solder on it, which means I have to be careful. If I melt the solder too much, it may come loose. I need to attach this to the ground here. I suppose I could just splice into this because I don't want to, or I could just run it. Well, I have to run it to the TV first, but yeah, I think I'll just run it to the TV and then to the Atari. That's probably fine. The Atari 2600 VCSP, the project that launched 1,000 ships. Just think, what would the Ben Heck show have been without this? Probably the Jerry Ellsworth show. Would Spooky Pinball have ever gotten off the ground? Who knows? Oh, I know, I just have to wish that I'd never built this, and then a magical angel or a animated spring will pop up and show me exactly what would happen. Oh, Ben! Max Olmsted's cat died because he never worked for the Ben Heck show. No, that can't be. Gosh is a perfectly healthy cat. Max couldn't afford his medicine and Gus died. Obviously, had Max never worked for the Ben Heck show, he would have never been able to keep his cat alive. As if he couldn't have just had another job. It does kind of make you think, though. Why, I hope I never see another spring as long as I live. So, you don't like springs, huh? Yeah. This audio video part probably should be rewired. So I think I'm actually going to remove the Atari circuit board so I can get at that. Yeah, I like how I have these lovely computer motherboard screws holding the motherboard in place. Well, actually, you know, that makes sense. All right, here's a really rare look deep inside of this thing. If I can flex the cable. See? Look at all the router lines. It's like we used 1/8" bit on this. Oh. That's disgusting. Alright, so I basically just want to get the audio, video, and ground off of this, and then I was going to put this back in. Yeah, oh yeah, because you can see here's the TIA luminance pins coming over here. So this is apparently my circuit. You know what? I don't care how it worked back then. I just know that it did, so I'm just gonna attach new wires to it and let it go. Remember, kids, whenever you think that your soldering is bad, just remember, Ben Heck used to solder like this. Only a few connections left to go. Let's get the grounds over to the Atari. I'm pretty much gonna attach them anywhere. Same thing, I'm gonna come down here with this yellow wire. Forgot my colors there for a second. Just come over to the positive side of the capacitor and tie it off there. This system was only 20 years old when I built this originally. Now it's much older. All right, so that just leaves the audio and video connections. I mean, no matter what we do, it's gonna look better than it did. Let's see, I think this was video down here, so that's audio. All right. Okay, so we've replaced most of the power wiring. We routed it better, simplified it a little bit, left the control wiring, left this ridiculous ribbon cable. Yeah, but let's see if it still works. Still not getting anything from the Atari side. Screen turns on just fine. If I power the Atari directly with 5 volts, it works. So yeah, maybe I should replace this regulator after all. I do have a 5 volt ultra low dropout regulator. That means it can take an input voltage just over 5 volts and still work, still output the 5 volts that it needs to. Like an old regulator like this probably takes at least 7 volts before you'll get 5, but this one will work as low as like 5.45. Sorry, regulator. Your days are done. No. I'm gonna put in some new thermal paste. Arctic Silver. Time for some extreme overclocking. The nice side effect is that while searching through yet another unsorted box of items since I moved, I found 2 other things I had been looking for while looking for this Arctic Silver. I know I was making fun of how much empty space was in this unit earlier, but it does give me a lot of room to whack in some extra capacitors. Let's take one more close look inside. The custom acrylic cartridge slot. So cool. All this unnecessary ribbon cable. Wow. The new LDO regulator. About time. Most of this would be wired too. Oh yeah. Remove this plug. That's right. Wired up the potentiometer correctly. You know it. And also redid the electrical main power wiring. Alright. Now I just need to find a fresh 9-volt battery and we can try this bad boy out. I couldn't find a 9-volt battery, so I'm just going to use the wall power supply. Kung Fu Master. Yes, Activision ported this to the Atari. Hey, it's got a soundtrack in the game. Oh, it's like the Attack of the Clones. I hate sand. Oh, I'm dead. This game has really good music and graphics, but doesn't play very well. So here's Frogger. Frogger's a really good test cartridge because it has music right off the bat, a bunch of different colors, and 4-way joystick control. That's my DJ scratch mix. I'm just a frog in the world. Oh yeah! You know, in reality, that frog would have to deal with that every day. Hey, did you read in the news about those idiots who bid hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for cartridges pulled from the Atari landfill in the New Mexico desert? Yeah, I was one of them. So this is an Asteroids. I actually bought it because I liked the game. I actually got this thing working again, but it still smells. I actually had to 3D print a few parts to reproduce the tines, and a lot of rework on the PCB, which was more corroded than I would have guessed. All right, so this is a landfill Atari cartridge, and it still works. Oh yeah! See, I don't just hack up history, sometimes I restore it. Rise from your grave. This cartridge thought it was trapped in a tomb of garbage for all eternity. It thought wrong. I'm not doing very good. This cartridge thought it was doomed to spend all eternity trapped in a tomb of garbage. It was wrong. Well, there you have it. My original Atari 2600 VCS portable. Refurbished and still working after nearly 20 years. And it can also play cartridges that smell like dumps. Awesome!
Apparently you guys really liked when I pimped out your PCs last time, so we're doing it again! Once again, I'm pulling these submissions from Twitter. You can follow me there at BitwitKyle if you ever want to be featured, if you want your build to be featured in an upcoming episode or a future episode of this series that I'm calling Judging Your PCs. Because that's essentially all I'm doing. Who knew this segment would be a hit? If I ever told someone that, it would just sound crazy. Yeah, so basically I take a look at their pictures and I tell them that they're wrong and that they're crappy. Smash hit. Anyway, let's just dive right in. Today's video is sponsored by the Corsair Dark Core RGB Pro wireless gaming mouse. Experience thoughtful flexibility with a wired connection, Bluetooth, or Corsair's Slipstream technology offering sub 1 millisecond wireless speed. Interchangeable side grips provide extreme comfort and control, and an 18,000 DPI optical sensor delivers pinpoint accuracy. Click on the link below to learn more. First victim. Dylan M. Kennedy. Progress is progress. Okay, sweaty face. Yeah, you should be nervous. AMD FX 6300. Ooh, yeah, you gotta upgrade that whole platform. Sorry, bro, that's a little dated. Deep Cool Capitan 240EX flip cooler. I'm down with that. That sounds pretty rockin'. ASRock 760. Yeah, get rid of that motherboard. One stick of Garbo 900. 8 gigs of RAM. What is that? Is he saying it's garbage or is that an actual brand name? We'll find out. Seagate 2 terabyte Bermuda. XFX Radeon RX 480. Yeah, you should probably upgrade that too at some point. And Corsair, that looks fine. With the Mesh IC. The case, the power supply, the hard drive, and the cooler, I would say are keepable. You would keep those and replace pretty much everything else. Because, let's take a look. What the? Honey, I shrunk the motherboard. Why is it so small? Why do you have a mini ITX from the looks of it motherboard inside of this mid-tower chassis? Maybe it's to save money, or it's all you had at the time. It's recycled from another build, but you're kind of not really using this case to its fullest potential. It's nice to have the extra expansion and features that often come with ATX motherboards. For example, you only got 2 DIMM slots here, so you're kind of capped on your memory. A single PCI Express slot, and just from an aesthetic standpoint, it looks kind of funky, right? You've got this dwarfism syndrome going on here, where your board just looks super tiny, and it kind of throws off the proportions of everything here in the system. It just looks awkward. And then your tubing, what's your tubing doing? It's like going down and up and then down and then up. I don't know. As long as there's no kinkage there, you're probably fine. Looks a little funky to me though. Maybe it's because you have a mini ITX motherboard in here, so the socket's a little too close to the radiator. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but you probably could use another fan if you really wanted to at the front here, just to even out the air pressure. Looks like you've got a lot of negative air pressure going on here, assuming that these 2 radiator fans are set to exhaust. You've got a lot of exhaust and hardly any intake. I would try to balance that out a little bit. And you also have, well, it looks to be stock power supply cables. They don't look terrible, but if you wanted to upgrade aesthetics, once you've got your performance where it should be. But as far as color coordination goes, that looks pretty strong here. You've got a black and white theme going on, so that looks all fine and dandy. I think you just need a new platform, and when you do, you want to upgrade the size of your motherboard as well, upgrade your GPU, call it a day. All right, thank you very much. All right, Electra 57. I'm a struggling gamer girl. Really? Why do they feel the need to specify? Is that important? Is that an important detail that I should know? By the way, guys, in case you didn't know, I'm a gamer boy. I'm just giving you a hard time, Electra. Don't listen to anything I say, unless it's what I'm about to say right now. Novice Twitch streamer. Okay, she's trying to get into Twitch streaming. My PC is holding me back from being better at both. Please help. Sure, I can do that. Oh wait, did she provide specs? Yes, she did. So we've got a Ryzen 5 3600X, solid. All right, B450 motherboard, solid. 8 gigs of memory. You're gonna want to double that, okay, and get faster memory as well. 2400's kind of low. GeForce GTX 1060. I would say upgrade your graphics card too. You know, if you want the stream to look good, and you want performance to be good while you're streaming, upgrade that at some point.